Hello and welcome to TidyX episode 133, Flex in Your Dashboard. TidyX is a screencast where we go through and explain how our code works. My name's Ellis Hughes.
And my name's Patrick Ward, and this is TidyX. And just remember, before we get going here, if you like our work, like and subscribe on the YouTube channel, where you can hit us up with questions, comments, ideas for future episodes. Additionally, as always, we enjoy doing this, and if you feel like we've somehow positively impacted the way that you do things, we do have a Patreon page, and we're thankful for anything that you'd be willing to donate. That said, moving on to, I don't know how we got through 132 episodes without yet
I
doing
don't
at least
know.
an intro to Flex
Yeah, at the
Dashboards.
very least, an introduction to Flex Table, because Flex Table is a pretty cool package.
Flex Dashboards.
Flex,
Flex
ah!
Dashboards. Yeah, Flex Table is different. Uh,
Both are cool.
Flex Dashboard, both are cool, right? Flex Dashboards. We've talked a ton about Shiny. We've talked a ton about Plotly. And we've yet to talk about Flex Dashboards, and I think we've also yet to talk about Shiny Dashboards. Or,
Yeah,
but
we'll get to that.
yeah, we'll get
Let
to
us know
that.
down below if you want us to talk about Shiny Dashboards.
Um, but Flex Dashboards, this is a great way for building reports that you can give out to people. They can hold a lot of context. They can become interactive. And the best part is, as we've been talking about over the past several weeks, they're totally serverless. So the data is contained within the HTML. Once you knit it, all the data is in there. You'll see at the top here, I'm going to simulate some fake data, but this could easily, and this is how I do it, this could easily be a SQL query that's querying a database and building a report. It could be running from a CSV file that you've stored in a folder and you just feed it what file you need to pull. Any of those things are options. Super cool. So we'll jump right into Flex Dashboards. At the top, we've got the YAML, just like we do with our Markdown files, which is another one of those serverless options that we've talked about. You're going to feed it some information that's basically going to tell the Flex Dashboard how to behave. Really quick aside on line 5, where you set the orientation. I set it to columns. You can set it to rows if you want. I never have great success having it look good when I set it to rows. So I set to columns, but that might be a me thing. So you do you and you try you. And after we do that, really quickly, we're just going to load in some packages. Obviously, you're going to need to load the Flex Dashboard package. We're going to have Tidyverse and DT and Plotly, which we've been working with for pretty much the past 4 or 5 weeks because they're really fun ways to build interactive reports. I'm going to set the theme set to light for any of our GG plots, and then I'm just going to simulate some fake data. This is basically, like I see on Twitter, a ton of people that work for sports teams are posting their dashboards, and a lot of times they're Excel dashboards and they look really pretty. We're going to just build a simple, quick and dirty Shiny Flex dash or our Flex dashboard using some fake training load data, and you could glamorize this all you want with all of the previous options. We're going to use a bunch of the options that we used over the past few weeks. So I'm going to create a little Tibble here. We're going to have 4 players: Andrew, Bill, Hank, and Tom. We're going to each give them 100 training sessions. Obviously, we're going to qualify the training days 1 through 100, and then the training load is just going to be a random draw from a normal distribution with a mean of 300 and a standard deviation of 50. So just some random data, random numbers, nothing specific.
Yeah. Yep, for sure. And as we go through this dashboard, if there's a thing that you would like to see us demonstrate in a Flex dashboard, leave a comment down below so that we know what you all want to be seeing in these dashboards, because we think we're showing here like some pretty standard stuff, but if you've got a specific use case, we'd love to hear it.
Yeah, totally. So we run all that. The first thing, so Flex dashboards have the ability to give us tabs, which is really cool. So we're going to make a team tab and a player tab. And the way that you specify a tab is you write out the tab name, and then below it, you just put a bunch of equal signs. There's actually no limit to how many equal signs you put. You could put 1 extra, you could delete 10 of them. I just kind of hold my finger down and put a bunch and let it go. After that, you're going to want to specify how you want your columns to look. So we're going to have a tab called Team Output, and we're just going to give it 2 columns. And The data width is basically the percent of real estate on that tab that that column is going to take up. So in
Relative.
this case, yeah, the
Relative width.
relative real estate.
So
Yeah,
it's
relative
the
width,
between these two numbers or however many columns.
however many columns you want. So we have column one is going to take up 30% of the width of that tab, and then column two is going to take up 70% of the width of that tab. And the way that we specify the columns is we say we want a column, we give it the braces, we tell it how much relative width we want to expand, we want that column to expand out, and then we again just put a bunch of minus signs under that. There's no limit to how many minus signs you could put, but we just throw them in there. I'm going to give the column name a bit of a header. Now, the key thing here is just like in our markdown, the number of hashtags that you put is going to tell you the size of the header that you want. But if you want the relative column width to work, you have to use the same number of hashtags for your headers. We had a problem with this before, and it was because I left off one hashtag, and it took us about 5 minutes to realize what was
what's
going
going on? We're testing the different data widths. Going, wait,
Yeah,
why is it not behaving the same
so
way?
it's a big problem. So we're going to go with three. So that's basically one is going to be the largest header, two, and then we're going with three. We're going to call this column team notes. And basically, this is where we would write any kind of notes that we want the coach to have. So like, the team had a spike in training load for days 75 and 80, but that's now subsided. Be ready to adjust training as we enter the playoffs. This is any other notes for coaches or people who have to read it. Totally fine. All of the markdown, standard markdown fare that we've talked about with respect to bullet points, bolding phrases, and things like that. Like we could bold playoffs there in line 33. We could put a Google link in to a web page if we had a like ESPN.com or something. Yeah, there you go. Google link. We could in line 37. Yeah,
I always forget how these go.
Yep.
For some reason, they don't stick in my head.
There it is.
There we go.
Up at line 37, we could use two little asterisks around the word playoffs to bold it. I think that italicizes it. Yeah.
So do all those things.
So all those things work. The next column is we're going to make a plot. We're going to call this team plot. Again, 3 hashtags. I set the figure width here because we have a width of 70. And so what our markdown does is it builds kind of containers for us. And I'm going to set 2 containers within this column. So there you see the plot. And if Ellis scrolls down a little more, you're going to see within this column, we're also going to have a table. And again, those 3 hash marks let Flexdashboard know, hey, this is all within the same column because I haven't specified a new column. So it's just going to lop them in rows within that column. So I set the figure width to 12, and we're just going to build, this is like straight up R type of stuff. We summarize the data by training day. We're going to take a rolling 7-day average using the RCPP roll package, which we've used before. So we're going to do a roll mean. And then
I don't think we have done RCPP roll.
Oh, we might not have. Okay,
we'll have to do that. If you guys want to do it, comment below.
Yeah, it's one that I use a ton. That and the zoo package for moving windows and rolling averages and stuff.
Yeah.
But we build a rolling average for 7 days. We have a little bit of ggplot stuff here. So we're going to put in a line for the training load. We're going to have and that's going to be gray. And then we're going to have the rolling 7-day average kind of going over top of that in black. And then we're just going to make some little annotations here. So saying like, hey, the gray line is the daily training load and the black line is the 7-day rolling training load. We give it some labels and we set our Y-limbs, and there we have our plot. So we'll run that chunk.
Just to show you what it looks like.
Oh, yeah. There it is.
Hey.
Cool. And then the next one below that in this same column, we're going to just make a quick and dirty data table. It's the same type of data prep. So we summarize by training load, by day, the rolling 7-day average. We're going to throw it into that data table package. We don't need the row names. We're going to do a little styling here. So put some borders on the along the cells, name the columns, and then we're going to just round our values to 1 significant digit. That's tab 1. Ellis is going to walk us through tab 2 for player output. where we have the equal signs to tell Flex Dashboard this is going to be tab 2.
There we go. Yeah, so let's get this going. So this is the second tab. Is as Patrick said before, we're going to use these equal signs to indicate to Flex Dashboard that this is actually a new tab here. And now we're going to also do 2 columns, but rather than the 30-70 split that we had before, just a demo that you can do any sort of splitting you want to do, and it's all relative. This column is going to be 20, and this one is going to be 80. And so because it's relative and this adds up to 100, the math is pretty simple. It's 20% and 80%. But we could have done a different ratio as well, and it ends up just trying to split it out between the two of them. For the notes here, again, we're having notes on the left-hand side, just to give a little bit of context before you look into the actual data that's on the right-hand side. So it's a nice little area to for whoever's building this dashboard to put in a little bit of comments here and there. Then we've got the second column, which again has those dash signs there, and we again need to have the 3 hashtags there, and we're going to put in another figure. This figure is going to have a width of 8, so it's going to be slightly smaller, and it's going to be an interactive plotly. So again, same sort of idea, but this time we're not grouping by the day. We're going to be grouping by player. We're going to do the rolling mean using the RCP roll mean function again. And we're going to have our x-axis be training day and y-axis being training load. But this is time we're going to be faceting. So kind of jumping through this real quick. Then we're going to add 2 lines here. Again, one for the specific training day and the next one for the rolling average. We're going to add our nice little labels there. But this time we're going to facet wrap by player. So this time we're going to have the 4 different, because of 4 different players, we're going to have 4 facet areas, one for each player. So you can kind of see how the load moves for the individual player. We're going to add a little bit of theming. So we're going to set the strip background to be black. So the strip background is the label basically of the facet. And we're going to set the strip text to be white so that the name kind of clearly pops. And then we're going to throw it into ggplotly. So ggplotly is a pretty cool function that is going to take this ggplot that we made here and turn it into a plotly for us. Most of the time it works pretty darn well. Every once in a while you'll come across a thing that doesn't quite transfer over nicely or into plotly, or you did a thing that is highly customizable in ggplot that you like, that functionality just doesn't exist inside of plotly. So your mileage may vary with this, but I definitely approach converting my ggplots into plotly. I like the syntax a little bit easier for me, and it covers most cases.
Yeah, there's some things that won't convert all the time when you do this, when you use the ggplot wrapper, but I've found 90% of the time you can quickly turn a ggplot into an interactive just with that ggplotly wrapper, and it generally works.
Yeah, and then from there, like, you can start adding more plotly stuff onto it, because at that point it's a plotly, so you can start adding your plotly specific pieces to it as well.
Yeah, you could do like I think add annotation, like plus add annotations and add a title and subtitle, and you can style it, but
go wild. So this is then one piece or one like cube under the column, and then the second cube is the player table. So again, we're going to be doing a table as well. So we're going to take that, we're going to again group by player, do the rolling average, but this time we're also going to be converting the player name into a factor. And the reason we want to do this is so that way when we throw it into our data table, we can do some column level filtering. So we're going to take the data table, we're going to again skip row names that's not containing useful information for us this time, a little bit of styling to do add cell borders and some striping, and this time we're going to add filter equals top. So before, when you created the data table, we had that search bar on the upper right hand side there. This time filtering is going to be done at the column level. Then we're going to set the nice column names, because we know that the column names that are in the data that we're throwing into the data table aren't the nicest. They're functional, they're not for display. We're then going to do some format rounding on training load and rule C7 to make sure they round to a single digit.
The one thing before we knit this, so if you just run this data table for a second, because I do want to show why I had set player to factor. So if you go into the search bar for player right now, the filter bar at the top of the player column.
Oh, here.
Not the search bar. Sorry. Yeah. So we get this nice drop down and we can select, or you can even start typing in there and it's going to short name, but yeah, it'll logically find it. So now go back to the code and delete player equals factor from our mutate. Because yeah, and I think you have to get rid of the comma, but oh, maybe not. Okay.
No, mutate's fine with extra columns or
Okay.
commas.
So now you'll see it doesn't give us the drop down, and you could type and get the information, but I, which is fine. I always like the user to be able to go into that box and see a drop down of potential names as well as just having to type, because sometimes they might, especially if we have a lot of names, they might be scrolling to look for something. So that's why I set it to factor.
Yep. So there you go. So that's how you could approach doing that as well. And so this also allows you to build up multiple filters across the multiple columns.
Yeah.
As well, because I think this becomes basically a regex search at this point. It's filter players where their name has A and K to session between sessions 52 and 74 where their average TL was here. So it kind of allows you to do the anding and this and this and this.
Yes.
As you build out your table.
All right.
So let's see how this Flexdashboard. There we go. I said it right that time.
Get the forgot to put the player back.
The nice thing about this Flexdashboard is it compiles really quickly.
Yeah.
Because we're trying to just display data, you'll probably want to any data that you're putting into your Flexdashboard, if it's going to have a complex statistical method or something that takes a long time to run, you'll probably want to have that done beforehand and be really using the data you're wanting to display in your dashboard. You don't want to be doing as much of the computational piece inside of the markdown as well as trying to make the display. It just kind of makes it clunky, especially since the point of this is to display information and data. So you're probably going to be iterating on this piece a fair amount. And so
same with the Shiny app. You don't want to have a whole bunch of math computation going on.
So the more that you can move upstream of your display, it makes your life a little bit easier. But so this is our Flexdashboard here. We've got our nice title here. We've got our team notes here. Note how we have the italics for the single markdown syntax. We have the bold for the double underline or the double asterisk. The Google link to go to Google. The nice table or the figure. The nice plot.
You can see that our fig width of 12, we could have probably stretched it a little bit more or made it larger. You could see the data table below has by default relatively large syntax. We could write some JavaScript in there to shrink this down and shrink some of the syntax.
Also, my RStudio was zoomed in.
Oh, that's why. Oh, okay. Yeah, that's not bad.
Still.
No, it looks pretty good. Yeah. And then the player output tab. Notice that the column on the left is a little bit smaller. It was a 20% relative. Yeah. You can see that we have our cool little plotly at the top that's interactive. You could zoom in on that if you wanted to zoom in on the day 50 for everybody and take a look, whatever. Yeah. And then we have the searchable columns in the data table at the bottom, which is pretty sweet and gives us a lot of options. Nobody met any of those conditions. There we go. Three guys met those conditions.
There you go.
So that's a pretty simple Flexdashboard to kind of get you up and running, and lots of other options in terms of conditional formatting in the tables, adding another table to the bottom of this one, so you have 3 tables in a column. Lots of different options that we can kind of go with.
Cool layouts you can do as well. So there's a lot of options here. So comment down below additional things that you want to see in a dashboard. Do you want us to go on the server side? Do you want us to do a Shiny dashboard, or do you like this serverless thing? where
Yeah.
you can just make it, email it out, don't got to worry about having a server on the back end. You just lose a little bit of the interactivity, potentially a little bit of the interactivity, but it's
Totally,
all about
totally.
decision making, right?
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
So with that, I think we're going to call episode 133. Thank you all for
Awesome.
joining us. As always, my name's Ellis Hughes. You can find me on Twitter at Ellis_Hughes.
And my name is Patrick Ward. You can find me on Twitter at OSPPatrick, at Tidy_explained is where the screencast lives on Twitter. Tidy.explained@gmail.com is where you can hit us up if you want to email us. But the most popular way to get in touch with us is to go on YouTube, like and subscribe, drop comments, questions down below with ideas of things that you'd like to see, problems that you're having that you might want to help have a solve for or fix for. Um, Additionally, if you feel like our work has impacted you in a positive way, we love doing this and we love to hear from you. And if there's anything that you'd like to donate, we do have a Patreon page. We're always appreciative of that. And that wraps up episode 133. We made it 132 episodes without talking about Flex Dashboard, but here we are.
Can't say that anymore. Thank
No.
you all so much and keep on exploring your world.